What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got for you 5 stories from r/traumatizedthemback, a phenomenal subreddit, because unlike other revenge subreddits out there, in this one, we get to see the instant karma. It's called Traumatize Them Back for a reason, and if you haven't seen one of these episodes before or heard one of these stories, the first story today will sum up the entire subreddit for you. So without further ado, sit back, relax, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're new. Let's go. Someone tried to stop me from using the women's bathroom because they mistook me for a guy. This happened when I finally had the nerve to try a pixie cut hairstyle. I was really happy about it because it felt like me. I will admit that when I shop for clothes, I do not care for gender norms. For example, I bought a man's Hawaiian shirt because it felt breezy to me, and I really liked its fabric. So, onto the story. I was in the mall with my then boyfriend and went straight for the women's bathroom as usual. There was no one there except for a woman putting on makeup. I went inside and was almost close to one of the stalls when said lady quickly approached me with makeup tools still in hand. "Isn't this comfort room for women only?" And I was confused. Like, yeah? Because there's obviously a big sign out there. But then I realized she was staring intently at my chest, as if trying to determine if I'm really a girl or some guy entering a woman's bathroom. And I really don't understand why she'd think of the latter, because I was wearing short shorts with leggings. Sure, I was wearing the breezy men's Hawaiian shirt, but it was unbuttoned and loose to reveal a tight black tank top underneath. Like, that's definitely feminine. The whole situation felt so ridiculous to me that I made eye contact, pointed in the direction of my shorts with both hands, and casually asked, "Wanna check?" If she's gonna make this weird, I'm gonna make it weirder. Wanna enter a stall with me and have a peek? Sure, why not? We're both women, sarcastically. I like to think the silence that followed made her realize who was being a creep, because she backed out immediately and said no. I finally did my business in the stall, and while I was washing my hands, she apologized, and I told her it was no big deal. But I have to apologize for the trans people out there who get treated like that when they're just minding their own business. Okay, and there we go. That is it for the first story. And that is what I mean when I say in the introduction that if you don't know this subreddit, you get to know it very quickly. That is the beauty of r/Traumatize Them Back. You see the instant karma. Whereas, on like r/prorevenge or nuclear revenge, or even like petty revenge, sometimes you don't actually see that immediate revenge. You don't even ever sometimes get the payoff. Whereas here, it's always pretty instant. I mean, at least most of the time. And that is the beauty of this sub. This is something that I really would love to do. And again, I think I've been saying this for like the last 6 years now. It's very, very rare that I ever find myself in a situation like this. But I do think the thing to do is just go with weirdness and sarcasm if someone's coming at you being weird, and just try and make them feel as uncomfortable as possible. It's just funny. And look, you could have taken this really personally and got really angry, but I do think that's kind of what this woman wanted. Now, interestingly, OP has left this little edit saying, "Wow, I never realized this would blow up." Now, reading the comments, I wanted to believe in good faith that she learned her lesson, but maybe you're all right. She wasn't actually sorry that she harassed me, and she was actually more sorry that she harassed the wrong person. I guess that she wasn't right. And I think that sort of supports your point when you said at the end that, it was okay for you, but yeah, what if you were trans and having to deal with this sort of thing every single day? It's horrible from her. And hopefully, by your reaction and by that karma that you gave her, she now won't do this to the next person, because it's a horrible thing to do. And also, who really cares? Like, what are the chances that a guy walks into it just doesn't happen. I mean, look, yeah, maybe 1 in a million it happens. But ultimately, if someone is in the female toilets, it's very likely they're a female. Just let them be and just get on with your day. Now for our second Traumatize Them Back story. My father accused me of not being sick while I had a heart attack. Back in 2017, when I was just 17, I had a heart attack. It happened on Christmas Eve of all days. Instead of getting support from my family, my father accused me of making the whole thing up for attention. I hate attention at family gatherings. I was rushed to our local hospital, and things were so serious they had to transfer me by ambulance to a larger hospital in the city because they couldn't treat me locally. You'd think that would have been proof enough that this wasn't some ploy for attention, but no. I ended up needing surgery, and I went through a tough 2-month recovery period. It was one of the most physically and emotionally challenging times of my life. Through all of that, my father never once visited me in the hospital. He was too scared and ashamed to show up, and he's never apologized for how he treated me during one of the worst moments of my life. To this day, we don't speak. I've cut him out of my life because I realized I deserve better than a parent who accuses me of faking a life-threatening medical emergency. Yeah, I feel like your last sentence there, OP, really does sum up this entire thing. Why would you ever want someone like that in your life? Imagine you're about to die, you're dying, your heart is failing, and your dad just goes, "Stop messing around, man. Like, you're fine. Just chill. Stop trying to get attention, you little rat." The anger would just be, palpable. Family calls me to get me to go back home. I revealed the reason why I left. So, I've left home. I'm more or less homeless and lodging in a hotel that a friend paid for. God bless his heart. This is due to my mum physically assaulting me for the first time since my dad died. That reason is a story for another day. She slapped me 3 times and my face got swollen, so I left 4 days later. I had already been planning on leaving later this year because she's been more or less stealing from me, or more accurately, stealing from my late dad's estate that he left for me in his will. She's been selling some properties, and it's 2 years ago that I found out that that's actually a crime. When I tried to get her to do the right thing, she called me a gold digger, and since then, so many things have happened. I've gotten a lawyer and we're working the logistics out to get what's mine. After leaving home last Friday, I've had a barrage of calls from family members. Everyone has been trying to convince me to come home, and even trying to evoke my late dad's name to get me to come home. We were very, very, very close. Cue this incident. My in-law calls me on Sunday and says that my mum came to his house and told him what's happening. He starts with saying that I'm making the wrong decision. I'm going to be wrong, 2 wrongs don't make a right, etc, etc. He doesn't know that my mum slapped me, and I don't tell him because he says, and I quote, "I won't ask what made you leave yet. I want you to go back so we talk about it." He keeps on saying that the path I'm on is wrong, and so many people who have gone on the path I'm on didn't have it ending well for them. All I try to say falls on deaf ears. And since we're Muslim, he starts quoting hadiths to support him and me going back. After he's done going on a tangent and I finally get the chance to speak, I tell him that I'm thanking him for the concern. And even though I'm not ready to tell him the full story, I just want him to know that the main reason I've left is because my mum is stealing from an orphan. Now, in my religion, when your dad dies, you're classified as an orphan. So I was letting him know that my mum was stealing from me. And in our religion, stealing from an orphan gives you an automatic and cemented ticket to hell. As you guessed it, he decided to actually listen now. He stopped trying to guilt me to going home. After I gave him a summarized version of events, he starts saying we need to talk to my mum, I need to tell the family, etc. Promptly forgetting his mission to get me to go back home. I felt very satisfied when he apologized and said he's sorry I'm going through that and we need to rectify it, so I should update him on whatever happens next. Safe to say he hasn't called me since. And since that experience, any other family member who calls, I just let them know that she's stealing from me, and each and every one of them stops asking me to go back home. Now everyone knows, or will eventually, I guess. In all this, it seems my mum didn't expect me to leave home, and she's been very remorseful and worried, but it's a little too late for that, I guess. Sometimes, it's just not fair, is it? Why have you lost your father when you were so close to him, but not your mum, who just treats you so horribly and is just a genuinely horrible person? It's just like, I don't know, it's just tough, isn't it? So look, you're dealing with all that grief and the fact that you've lost, maybe the person that was closest to you in your life, definitely your closest parent or I presume family member. And then on top of all of that, you've got this. And the good news is that your family are now beginning to understand how terrible your mother is. And, I kind of get it from their perspective a little bit. They're hearing these things from your mum, and then she's like, please try and get my kid back. I don't know why they've left. So then they're trying to get you back, which it makes sense. But then after hearing the truth, I'm glad that they're switching sides and actually understanding what's happened and why you've made those decisions. So yeah, again, the main point is it's just a very, very sad situation. But you've done well. You've made the right choice, and you're out of there. So fair play to you, OP. Now for our 4th story. And if you thought, guys, for one quick, cheeky second that the stories, after the first, second, or third we're going to get a little bit more tame or sort of filler, just, to flesh out the episode, then how about this for a title? Lunch supervisor tried to inject my sister with insulin she didn't need. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at a pretty young age, 8. I'm actually really lucky that I was able to have such a good support system during my primary school years. All my teachers knew that I had diabetes, as well as the lunch ladies and the lunch supervisors. And they never really treated me differently, apart from being concerned for me sometimes. This actually concerns a lunch supervisor who me and my sister, suspect to be kind of racist, and it happened a few months, around 5, after I got diagnosed. For context, we are black, and when we were younger, me and my sister, who I'll call Brenda for clarity, were pretty much identical, despite the fact that she was a year younger than me. It got to a point that relatives used to remark that people could almost mistake us for twins. Now at school that wasn't really a problem because we used to act very differently. I was more introverted and very much into books, while she was a quintessential extrovert and was always more fierce. And for people who have seen us day in and day out, it was clear that we were different. Despite the fact that this supervisor knew us by name, by face, and could differentiate us, she would always act snide to us in a way that was uncomfortable. Our school was incredibly diverse, with a minority of white people and mostly Asian and black people, so I honestly don't know where this came from. Anyway, this supervisor knows that I take insulin for lunch, and that I'm to go straight to the nurse once it's lunchtime. I was even allowed to leave early sometimes to get my dose. One day, she sees my sister playing in the playground before they call us for lunch. We were allowed to play for around 15 minutes before lunch, eat lunch, and then get 30 minutes to play again before classes started back up. And, I'm paraphrasing from my sister here, grabbed my sister and started dragging her to the nurse. The nurse's office, in which I and my fellow diabetics would take our insulin, was around a 10-minute walk from the playground, and quite close to both the lunch hall and the pastoral team. And the separate nurse's office for normal scrapes and stuff was really around 2 minutes from the playground. Despite the fact that my sister was crying out, saying, "I'm not OP, I'm Brenda, her sister," she apparently didn't believe her and marched her straight there. She gets to the nurse and sees she's not there. Of course she's not. She's at the normal one and we've already taken our doses. And then tries to force my sister to take insulin. Guys, this is incredibly dangerous for non-diabetics. And despite the fact that my sister was crying at this point, the supervisor didn't care. One of the pastoral team hears this crying, goes to investigate, and comes to this scene. One look at my sister and she asks my sister, "Brenda, are you okay? What's happened?" My sister tells me that the supervisor just went pale, like all the blood drained from her face. Then she goes red, and as my sister is explaining, tries to butt in and say, "Well, she didn't say she was Brenda. How was I to know? I thought she was OP." Yeah, that didn't really fly well. Now, a lot of people, and I assume you guys are wondering as well, what actually happened to this person. And you know what's crazy about it? She didn't get fired, the supervisor. OP has said, "I'm actually sorry," they've left a little edit here. "I'm sorry about the inconclusiveness of the story. I forgot to add it in probably because she didn't get fired. I remember seeing her in year 6. It was 3 years after I was diagnosed. I'm pretty sure she got suspended, not fired, and had to go through rigorous first aid training, as well as being sent, I think that's the word, to the board of directors of which our headmistress was on. I absolutely agree that she should have gotten fired, but she was one of those who'd been there forever. Just because she was there for a long time though and was friendly with people doesn't mean that she shouldn't have gotten fired. I agree with that. Like, surely there are certain things where you're like, I don't really care how long you've been here. This could have been awful. And as you said, this is an incredibly dangerous thing for non-diabetics to have insulin. I mean, I presume that, yeah, you could go into an absolute, I don't know, your body could just get completely screwed up and it could be lethal. That's what I think. Who knows? I might be wrong there, but I don't see why that it couldn't be the case. So, yeah, it could have been so badly. I'm glad that this all ended up okay, but wow, just think. If that had happened, then would have been the end for the school. Let's be realistic. And that is, I think, reason enough to have fired this supervisor. Way too rash in her decision making for me. Now for our final story of this episode. You really don't want to assume that someone is pregnant. A few years ago, I gained a significant amount of weight suddenly, and I'm still on a very healthy dose of steroids following emergency surgery to remove the tumor that caused that, and a variety of other health issues. Anyone that's ever been on a high dose of steroids for a long time, or had a tumor in their endocrine system, will tell you it's like being possessed. You look like an inflatable balloon and have mood swings that totally change your personality. You have hair in places you shouldn't have hair, and you literally feel so tired you could die on a daily basis. It's a bad time. Do not recommend. So, I was waiting for a train on the way back from meeting a friend. We had a couple of drinks, minding my own business, out of breath and swaying slightly. Not from the drinks, I'd only had a glass of wine. A woman approached me, struck up a conversation. Nothing bad at first. She pointedly referenced that she had 2 healthy pregnancies, and I could see where she was going with this, but I wasn't about to stop her from putting her foot in it. She asked what I'd done for the evening. I said I'd had some drinks with friends, softly hinting to her to maybe quit while she was ahead. Undeterred, after some polite conversation, she slips in, "You really shouldn't be drinking pregnant, not even 1 glass." I'm usually very mildly mannered and not big on confrontation, but Barry the brain tumor had other ideas. I saw red. "Oh, my belly? No, I'm not pregnant, I have a brain tumor. They recently told me it's too late to try radiation and that I'm at risk of a heart attack until they can remove it." I left it at that. Entirely factual. The best thing is that the train went for another 15 minutes. I cheerfully let that be the longest, most silent 15 minutes of her life. There we go. What a way to end this episode. That 15 minutes would have been absolutely joyous. It's so good that this woman couldn't just walk away, but had to just sit there with you, like, I don't know, next to her, whatever, just thinking about what's just happened. It's so good. Yeah, I mean, again, like, as I say with all of these, very sorry you're in that situation. Like, obviously less than ideal, but when you do have something like this take place and you can deal with it like this, it's just pretty awesome. It tells me a lot about your character. The fact that you didn't just, I don't know, back down or get really angry just shows you're pretty awesome, and this woman is a disgrace. But there we go. That 15 minutes, as I said, must have been majestic. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want some more Traumatized Them backstories right away, I've left an episode on screen right there to watch some more. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Click this button over here. If you're on a podcast platform, there's also a link down below to come over to my YouTube channel and watch more Traumatized Them back content. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy.